Hello, welcome to Strip Threads. I'm Michael, your host. It's Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Hey, Matt came and picked up the Mustang this morning, or yesterday he picked it up, and they left out this morning about 6 a.m. He shot me a quick video on his way out of our neighborhood here. He texted me a couple hours ago, said that they're doing fine, hasn't had any issues. They're somewhere down around Boise, I think, at this point. Everything's been going great, so that is awesome. So, now that he's gone, I thought I'd take today off and just take it easy, but can't do that. Blame it on the ADD, whatever. This thing behind me, you've seen it, 77 Toyota Celica. This was my payment for working on the Mustang. I was glad to do it anyway, but this actually answers some problems and creates some new ones too. I don't need any more cars to be driving across the country, that's for damn sure. There's a couple things I've had to pass up that I really wanted. There's a 61 Rambler I really want, but, you know, okay. This is going under a Cricket. I've said it before, but I'll go into detail here. So, I have 4 Plymouth Crickets, 371s, 172. I have my original Plymouth Cricket that I've owned basically since I was 5 years old. Long story. Watch the other video. That car, I actually put a Datsun B210 engine and 5-speed transmission in. And it did great. Eventually I got another B210 and I robbed all the high-performance parts and the 5-speed out of it. Put all the stock stuff back on the Cricket because I wasn't driving the Cricket, and I kind of regret doing that. But either way, a 1400cc pushrod engine, forklift engine, literally a forklift engine, doesn't put out a lot of power. It does do better than the original 1500 did, but it's just a driver. You know, it's not a hot rod. It's not, I don't know if you consider it fun. I used to race it though, back when I had all the high performance goodies on it. But, you know, so it's been my goal. Like the parts car, for instance, I had a rotary in it at one time, and I never got it finished dropping in there. And I kind of got out of rotaries because they're not reliable. I'm not going to argue with you guys there. They are fast, they are awesome, but they are not a reliable daily driver type of thing. You know, I expect to get like the V210 engine that's in the car now, running it hard, racing it, you know, drag racing it, doing the slaloms, doing, you know, autocross. It's got 100,000 miles on it, and there's nothing wrong with it. You're not going to get that out of rotary, sorry. So then there's like the Lima, the Ford 2.3 Lima engine. They're super reliable, but they're dogs. They're like a detuned, they're literally like a detuned Cleveland. You can get the turbo 2.3s. They do okay. You can do a lot better with them. I've got one, but it's going in the Courier. So here's this. The 77 Celica, 2.2 liter 20R with a 5-speed. Now I'm getting in bad enough shape that, you know, where I got excited before about a 5-speed, now an automatic actually sounds better, but hey, I'll take it. This car's got factory AC. That's another bonus. The wheelbase is within 0.3 inches of the Crickets. The track is within 0.6 on the front and 0.3 on the rear of the Crickets. Everything is just, I mean, great. This has got a 4-link rear end, or I guess a 5-link rear end, but a panel rod, where the Cricket actually had triangulated 4-link rear end factory. I don't know which one's better for handling or not. The Cricket does not have a panel rod, this one does. Okay. Coil spring all the way around. Decent sized disc brakes up front on this car. Crickets actually were pretty decent for what they were, but these are bigger. It's got the rust that you saw in the other videos. It can be fixed. It's not going to be that hard to fix. The frame isn't rusty at all. Well, there's one little spot up here where the tow hook bolted on, but you know, that's probably going to get cut out anyway, and where the cricket nose is going to get welded back on. So the idea, I've been watching all these other videos, the idea is basically cut the firewall, you know, out up to the cowl and back down. Cut it right along the inside rockers. The trunk I'm going to have to get creative with. This one's got a lot of rust in the back of the trunk. As a matter of fact, it does have rust in the frame. Or at least, you know, the trunk floor where the frame rail is spot welded to the bottom of it. The top is rusted through, and I need to check the bottom. Structurally, though, it's not as much of an issue because there's nothing, like from the panel rod back, there's nothing attached to the suspension. What I may end up doing, because if I remember correctly, the patina cricket is the car that I'm going to use the body off of for this project. That car had a good trunk. The spare tire well, the rails, all that stuff was good. What I might do is drill out the spot welds for the cricket frame rails, drill out the spot welds for the Celica frame rails, and use the cricket trunk floor on top of the Celica rails and call that good. So I'll keep all that. I won't cut it out. Floorboards are gone. Firewall, I want to use the Celica firewall. Unfortunately, the cricket has a pretty typical British style. I don't know what you call it. I just call it a firewall. Where the fan motor sits at an angle. It's got its own little kind of plenum that comes out of the middle there. The firewall goes up under the cowl, except in the middle where it sticks out. So it comes up normally, but then it kind of dips in. There's no room under the dashboard for anything. I've got the air conditioning that's in the car now mounted at a sharp angle, and then the hoses all come out of the top of it. This is square. You know, and the heater box is in there, and it's huge, so we'll see. Other problem with the heater box on the Celica is the heater core hoses come in right behind the engine. It'd be nice if I could move the engine back an inch, maybe 2 inches. There's about 2 inches of clearance there. Can't do it with those hoses there. But if I'm going to have to put a different heater in this thing anyway, I can do it. I can get away with it. Great. I'll have to shorten the drive shaft an inch. Yeah. So there's not going to be any chopping. There's not going to be any welding. There's nothing like that going to be done as far as the conversion between the Cricket and the Celica. What I am going to be doing is getting this Celica running on the road, tagged, drive it to work every day, and drive it all winter if I can. And then when the time comes to move, I know it'll be 100% and go. We're good. Everything will be great, you know. I don't have to fix anything on the car. I just have to swap bodies and paint. Well, actually I'm going to leave the patina Cricket patina because I really like the patina. Wipe it down with oil, linseed oil, and leave it for a while. Maybe someday I'll paint it. I don't know, but I don't care. I don't like the red primer that Toyota used, unfortunately. But hey, the car's kind of a copper color anyway, so whatever, you won't even notice it. So that's the plan for this car, for this build. I did get it running. It runs. The secondaries are stuck closed. I'm a little worrisome about fighting that too much, although I don't think it's going to have any power at all, like not even enough to keep up with traffic type thing running on the primaries. I'm afraid though if I break the secondaries loose, they'll get stuck open all the time. I'll be driving everywhere and I'll be, idling at 3,000 RPM. I'll have to go out and, turn it, shut it down. Hopefully though, if I do get it loose, I can go. I do have another core that I can use, another core Weber I can use, but it had a casting flaw. I'll have to look it over to see if that's the same one. I think that's why it's a core. We'll see. I have yet another, I call it a core, it's just a chunk of scrap metal. It's the bottom half of a carburetor that came off a Ranger. But if I have to, I can use the butterfly out of it. If I get this one, something, yeah. So we'll see. So what today's job is to do, I've got the threaded rod, I need to cut it into 4 sections. Drill the holes in the trunk floor, bolt the gas tank down, and then I need to run down underneath the car. I need to plumb the electric fuel pump. I need to figure out which wires go to the pump, which wires go to the sending unit. I don't want to mix them up and blow the sending unit up. So I need to put a battery in it and check that out. I'll probably do that before I put the gas tank in, so that way it's not hiding it. Plus, I've got a piece of, I don't know, called flashing back there. piece of thin metal, just cut it out with a pair of scissors, screw it down over the rust holes in the back. That way I don't get any fumes or vapors or exhaust into the car. Water, I don't care so much about. I'll leave a couple holes so the water can drain, but yeah, it leaks like a sieve back there. I'm going to cut some chunks of metal out of the old Volvo doors I've got that nobody seems to want. I feel bad about ruining a good set of doors, but hey, nobody wants them. They're going to go to the scrapyard anyway. I'll chop the metal out of the middle of them, put them over the holes where the taillights are, cut the 4-inch holes out for the trailer lights. There we go, I got taillights and turn signals now. That's the plan. The seats, I got a Celica driver seat. It works. I've got a pair of leather seats. I think they're out of a GM minivan, and they're nice. I had them in the Wagoneer actually, but they're really small, and so my butt is taking up every bit of the thing. I was actually afraid that the cushions were going to collapse because of my big fat butt. I took them out though because they looked like hell. I mean, they looked like absolute hell. They did not fit the truck, but they were comfortable and they were fitted to the truck nicely. They just looked like hell. I put the bench seat back in. Anyway, I've got those seats. The plan was to take them to Kansas and put them in one of the Crickets. Anyway, I ran out of room last time. If I put them in this car, it almost seems like a frivolous fix. Although, frankly, if I've got good seats in the car, I can load the family in it and we go places. So anyway, win-win. And then that way, when I swap the bodies over, I've already got the seats. They already fit the car. They're already good. Woo! So that's going to happen. Dashboard, I'm not going to do anything to the dashboard other than just make sure everything works. Glove box, same thing. I'm not going to do anything. I might chase down the air conditioning switches or figure out how they're wired. That way I know that for the future, but that's not an important priority. I am going to take a lot of measurements of this body. I'm going to draw, chassis. Okay, this is how wide it is here. This is how wide it is here. How tall it is. Okay, here's this. Here's that. Here's the firewall position in relationship to the wheel wells. I'm going to do all of that, and then I've got a buddy in Great Britain, England, who sent me the same measurements off of his Avenger wagon. Oh, God, I want a wagon. Anyway, so when I get out there, too, I'm going to compare all the notes, and then I'll know, okay, well, I'm going to have to trim this back this far. I'm going to have to add metal here. I'm going to have to do this, and then I'll be able to have that in mind when I do the swap. That way I'll be able to be on top of things rather than, oh, crap, I got to do this, That's what we're doing. So I'm going to go grab a battery. Pop it in there. I'm gonna go grab all the tools that I left in my other tarp shed from working on the Mustang. So bring them over here, all my electrical stuff, and get started on that. So sit tight. We'll be back. Alrighty, here we are. Got my test light. So for right now, we will just connect it to a ground. And we'll back probe. You don't want to shove a tool into here because you distort it and it may not get a good connection, or you may not even be able to get it. You always want to go in from the back of the connectors. Nothing. 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 Not good. So I'm going to say it's very likely that the fuel pump isn't going to work in the absence of oil pressure. You basically, when you get in a wreck or something, your engine shuts off. You don't want your fuel pump pumping if there's a fuel leak or something. You don't really want it pumping prior to it starting unless it's been sitting. So what I'm going to do is go up there and I'm going to crank it over and see if my test light turns on, and we'll go from there. Move the seat back. Luke was in here last. Okay, here we go. Well, it comes on with the key. Put some gas in it. I figured the the oil pressure would have come up by now. See what happens. Door handle's not working real well. Okay, that's what we needed. Yep. Okay. So, you'll remember in the other video I was telling you about, ooh, that's not good. I was telling you about the differences between the Toyota and the Courier, the Mazda electronics, that Mazda and Toyota used a lot of the same stuff. So, the fuel pump wire on my truck is a straight yellow fuel pump wire. The fuel gauge wire on my truck is a yellow with a red tracer, just like this. Now, it goes to this little adapter here. It's kind of odd. Instead of plugging straight in, it plugs into this, which is, I don't know what the deal is. But it changes. So you still have, you have the yellow with red tracer, but that goes to this white with black stripe. Your yellow with red tracer now becomes a black one. Your yellow becomes this black and red one. I have no idea why. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop this and use this on this tank, and then this will stay virgin. So now we know where to go. Just noticed we did some pretty moderate damage here pushing it in. Push this taillight panel in. I don't know if you can see how far it's bent. You can see this is pretty bent there, and there's a lot of filler in here. It might have been rust that they filled, or it might have just been accident damage. I think it was rust though, because that's really thin right there. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can kind of see that dent there as compared to this side. But yeah, okay, so what we've done, I've got the sending unit wire grounded. So when I turn on the key, it should peg the gas gauge. This is, people, pretty much universal for everything. If you're trying to check to see whether you have a bad sending unit, a bad float, or a bad gauge, if you ground the fuel sending unit, this is what you should find. There it goes. And you don't want to hold it there very long, it'll burn it out. So yeah, so it goes through the full sweep. So we know the sending unit wire is good. We know the gauge is good. Now we don't know if the sending unit tank is good. However, when I was running that tank in my Courier, the gauge worked just fine. So it should work just fine for here. The other question is whether or not the language of the Mazda is the same as the Toyota, and it should be. You know what I mean? Is the ohm ranges, whether or not they match. So we will see from there. Okay, people, Courier tank, she is in just shy of 15 gallons, I think. We are fueling it up right now, in case you can't hear that. I still need to hook up the sending unit wire, but that doesn't matter right now. We're going to fire this bad boy off. We're going to let it warm up, see how it's going. and you guys are going to be along for the ride, so sit tight. I realized I'd also forgotten to wire up the fuel pump. Well, that's been taken care of, and I got the gauge hooked up as well. I did find the return line is down there. It had a rotten cap on it. Let's see, we are going to crank this over until it squirts gas out of the hose there. I want to make sure it's coming out clean, and then we'll hook it up and go from there. I blew out the fuel line, so everything is clear now. The return line's not hooked up, it's alright. I've got a filter I'll show you guys later that it has a metered return orifice in it that'll limit your pressure to 3 pounds or less, and it'll give you that return line to come back. I will show you that later when I'm going to swap out this hose and filter, and I'll go ahead and hook that up at the same time. So for right now, I'm going to set you up over there in the corner. We're going to fire this bad boy off and see what happens. Alright, here we go. This may not be the first time it's been started. This is the first time it's going to be run since 1990 or 05, I think we said? 2005? That's the problem. Mixture screw's turned all the way in and it's still loading up. Could be that the fuel pump has too much pressure, although it doesn't appear to be flooding up here. These Webers do have an issue when they get cold like this. They ice up on around the bottom, and then they really load up. Although usually not this bad. far as it'll go in. It should be completely dead right now, but yeah. So there we have it. I'm not sure why the carburetor's loading up, but then again, you know, I knew it was junk, so we'll probably go ahead and dig that other one out and see what happens with it. But yeah, it sounds good. There's no blow-by, no smoke, other than the black smoke. We do have the little exhaust leak up here, but, you know, I can fix that. I may just weld up the tube. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, we just had our first failure. You can't hardly see it down there. The smog pump just seized up. And the belt had a lot of oil on it, so it allowed it to slip, which is good. Rather than burning something up or squealing real bad or, you know, whatever. We're going to cut the belt and let it ride. Good morning, welcome to Strip Dads. I am your host, Michael. I could say this is day 2 of the Celica build, but I don't really know what day it is. Alright, what I've got here in this bag is another Weber. So where we left off last night, the carburetor's loading up really bad. I don't see any gas dripping out of the boosters or the venturis. I can look in there and I can actually see the float level, and it's right where it's supposed to be. The secondary throttle is seized. It's completely rusted in there solid. And even though I dipped it, I can't get it free. If I work on it and work on it and work on it, I could probably get it freed up, but then it'll probably stick. As far as the fuel issue, I actually pulled the progression jet out while it was running, and normally that will immediately kill the engine because you'll have a huge vacuum leak and you'll completely cut off the fuel flow through the idle circuit. When I pulled it out, it didn't really change how it ran, which was really curious. I put my finger over the hole and there was no vacuum. So that leads me to believe that the vacuum port in the bottom of the carburetor is either blocked off or plugged somehow, and it's not actually putting vacuum into the power valve diaphragm. So the power valve is wide open, so it makes perfect sense why it's loading up. So with the issue with the secondaries being seized, and since I have to pull the carburetor off anyway, I've got this other one here I talked about This is a, red line filter. It's pretty dirty actually, it needs to be cleaned, but this one's still in good enough shape to use. The one that's on the car now is junk. It had a mouse nest in it. The only thing I ever put it on there for is to keep things from crawling in the carburetor. I got 3 of the clips to hold it on. Should be enough. Let's see what we got here. We've got the top half of the carburetor and a usable gasket. I figure I'll probably kit it someday if it runs good. So here's the power valve diaphragm, and let's see. So it's holding pressure. It's got brass floats. They look like they might be a little high. Got a spider web. We don't need that. I don't see anything wrong with or weird about this. This is a Spanish Weber, so it's a good one. There's a new gasket. It's kind of wrinkled out. On these Webers, you have a DGV and a DFV one-barrel carburetor parts. And the big difference between the two of them is that they're reversed. One has a right side primary, one has a left side primary. So certain ones will fit your applications better than others. Like on this Celica, a DGV is going to fit better because the throttle shafts are on the outside of the engine, away from the valve cover, where a DFV, they would be on the inside. And on a Courier, I've told a lot of people this, but nobody seems to really pay attention and end up buying the wrong carburetor and then they complain about it not fitting right. On a Courier, the DGV puts the choke pot and everything up against the valve cover. So you want to try to avoid a DGV on a Courier with a 2.0, even a 2.3. I mean, factory, the Pintos and the Rangers and the Fox Body Mustangs, the Mustang 2s, they all actually had a DFV variant. Some motion tubes. So you want to try to get to DFV. And so looking at a glance, the DGV, if you're looking at the back of the carburetor where the linkage is, it's going to be on the right. DFV, it'll be on the left. The other thing is the air horns. And I'll bring the camera over here and show it to you in a minute. But the air horns on the DFV are kind of a diamond-shaped opening. The air cleaner opening is diamond-shaped. Where on the DGV, it's squared off. See, this is a DGV opening here. So that's what to look out for. And there's other numbers too. There's DG AV, DG EV, DG ES is a completely different carburetor. That's the one that has the gears and there's no primary, secondary. They both open at the same time. So yeah, here's this carburetor, and it's pretty crusty looking. It really probably should be dipped. Is this the one? I had one floating around here that had a bad casting. And I think this is it. Okay, this is a mechanical choke. Which sucks. I gotta keep the automatic choke, but whatever. So the secondaries are stuck on this one too. So it's got some corrosion in it. I'm pretty sure I rebuilt this one. This one, think this is the one that was bad. The problem with it is, let me bring the camera over here and I'll show you guys. Okay, let me review here. This is a DGV. This is probably correctly described as a DGV because it's a manual choke. If it were an automatic choke with a water capsule on it, or the actual coolant opened the choke, or heated the choke, it would be a DGAV. If it were one with an electric pot open the choke, it would be a DGEV. So, anyway, DGV has the right-handed throttle primary, and this again is a manual choke. This is the air horn. As you see, it's square. I'll have to find a DFE, or I've got a Mikuni Solex over there I can show you. So that's what you got to watch out for. Now this carburetor's problem, here's the air cleaner. See, there's the opening. If it was more of a kind of a diamond shape opening without this big cutout, that would be a DFV. So here is my issue. It's missing a Welch plug, so it creates a huge vacuum leak and it doesn't pull fuel. And this camera sucks enough that you can't see down inside of it. It's missing this freeze plug, Welch plug, expansion plug right here. And let's see if you can see it. And you can't really see. There are a couple holes here, and most of them actually have a slit, and that's what opens the throttle to go to the it transitions it from the idle circuit, which is here, this guy right here, to the progression circuit, and it also opens up the port for the vacuum advance here. So it's a slit. The farther up in the slit you get, it goes from progression to advance and whatever. This actually has two little holes, which I've never seen before. This is a Spanish Weber, which is supposed to be the really good ones. See, it says right here. But you can't read because the camera sucks. 3236 DGV-5A. Yay. So yeah, this one's got two tiny little holes, which I don't think is a problem, but the holes are not regular. Yeah, I need to run a wire brush down in there. And of course the secondaries are seized on this one too, but this one hasn't been beat on yet. So we are going to clean this thing up a little bit. I'm going to pull the other one off and get a look, so I really would rather stay with the automatic choke if I can. If I can't, then we will just have to send it with this one. So we're going to do that this morning and get started on it. I'm going to get Luke out here in a little bit because he's driving his mom crazy. And I'm going to have him start pulling all the trim off of the windows so I can run some silicone in there to seal off the windows so I'm not having water drip on my lap while I'm driving. I don't know if it will yet, but I do know it's dripping out of the corners anyway, so it probably will. So we're going to jump on this. I doubt you guys want to see the play-by-play. So when I get it done, we'll be back, and I will, yeah, this needs to go, and I will show you what we did. Ciao. Okay, this is a carburetor that I have long since cobbled stolen pieces off of it. This is a stock carburetor off of, I think, a mid-70s Pinto. This is basically a DFV Weber. You see the primary shaft is here on the left, secondaries on the right. This one actually has a kicker. The problem is none of these aftermarket ones have the boss to hold it in place, or I'd probably use that for air conditioning. You see all the mixture screws and everything are here on the left side rather than the right side. And this would be where the choke pot would bolt on. So there's the problem, like with the Couriers. You know, you put them on, You know, this one, that one, you'd have the choke sticking out here, and it'd be up against the valve cover and the linkage and everything. And you know, how do you get to the mixture screw? It's like almost impossible. So that's why you run a DFV, because you can get to everything a lot easier. So yeah, this is just a junk piece of scrap metal, really. I just brought it out here to show you guys. Plus, it had a good return spring, so I stole that off of it. I'll probably keep this guy too, just in case. But yep, that's it. Okay, so my fix was not very visible on camera. A roofing nail that I filed down to fit in the hole, and I tapped it in there with a hammer, and then cut off the end of it. And now I'm going to fill in the recess with some JB Weld and call it good. Okay, carburetor's back together. I got the secondaries freed up. I changed the diaphragm for the power valve. We'll see if that made a difference. Like I showed before, usually you can push that thing down, put your finger over the vacuum port, let go of it, and then when you take your finger off, it'll pop up. It wasn't doing that. The diaphragm looked real flimsy, but it didn't look blown. I don't know. We did get the secondaries freed up. That's working like it's supposed to. Everything's all hooked up now. I don't have the air cleaner on it, but we'll do that in a minute. So I'll probably have to crank over for a second to fill the bowl, and we'll get her started.